Practical Anarchy, Guide to Self-Determination, Dickie Dredd. This is actually part 5 of the mini-series we're doing, which are outside the book to a certain extent, and either cover recurring themes or current activities, and this one's about Mr. Trump. So actually I was going to do barter before this one, but I thought because of what he's up to at the moment and his shenanigans, we'd put this one in first. So, Trump, minority rule and the illusion of popular will. And the whole point of this is to show that most Americans do not support Trump, despite what people might think. And many of them, do not want to be associated with his antics. So I thought I'd try and put things straight, and yes, I have run this by a few people from the US. So firstly, minority rule and the illusion of mass support. From outside the United States, it often appears that Donald Trump commands the backing of most Americans. International media coverage shows vast rallies, oppressive symbolism, constant online noise, and most importantly, the fact that Trump has repeatedly captured real political power. Yet appearance and arithmetic are not the same thing. On closer inspection, Trump's support is substantial, intense and highly organised, but it's not the support of a majority of the population, and often not even a majority of voters. In the 2024 presidential election, Trump won the largest share of the popular vote, securing just under half of ballots cast, while his main opponent received slightly less, and the remainder went to third-party candidates. This was a clear electoral victory, but it was not majority backing. The distinction matters because most Americans implies more than 50% of people, not simply more votes than a rival in a divided field. So, turnout and the shrinking denominator. The gap between electoral victory and popular support widens once turnout is taken into account. According to US Census Bureau estimates, around 2/3 of the citizens' voting age population participated in the 2024 election. When this is combined with Trump's share of votes cast, the result is stark. Roughly 1/3 of voting age citizens actively voted for him. This pattern is not unique to Trump. Modern US presidents are routinely elected by minorities of the total population because participation is uneven and because non-voters effectively vanish from political calculations. Tens of millions of Americans are disengaged, alienated or convinced that voting will not materially change their lives. International observers tend to see only those who vote, protest or shout, not those who stay home. Historically, Trump's support has remained remarkably consistent. In 2016, he won the presidency while losing the popular vote. In 2020, he again lost the popular vote by several million ballots. In 2024, he won the popular vote, but still fell short of a majority. Across 3 elections, his core coalition has hovered around the mid to high 40% range. Powerful, but bounded. Partisan polarisation without majority consent. The United States is deeply polarised, but polarisation does not automatically produce majority rule. Party identification data shows a country split into 2 large blocks, with a persistent independent middle. Gallup polling indicates that Americans identifying with or leaning towards the Democratic Party slightly outnumber those aligned with the Republican Party, with independents forming a large and volatile segment in between. This means that elections are often decided by small swings among marginal voters in key states, rather than by overwhelming national consensus. From abroad, however, the nuance of partisan balance is lost. What is visible instead is a political system locked in perpetual confrontation, where narrow victories produce sweeping power. Guns, identity and political intensity. One reason Trump's support appears larger than it lies in the intensity and visibility. Political commitment within his base is often expressed as identity rather than preference. This intersects strongly with gun culture, which plays a unique symbolic role in the US politics. Survey data from the Pew Research Center shows that around 1/3 of US adults personally own a firearm, and roughly 4 in 10 live in a household with a gun. Gun ownership is highly partisan, with Republicans more than twice as likely as Democrats to own firearms. Ownership is also geographically concentrated, with rural areas reporting far higher rates than urban ones. This matters because gun culture is not just about weapons, it is about narratives of freedom, threat and resistance. Where politics is framed as existential struggle, public expression tends to be louder and more confrontational. Flags, signage, open carrying and militarised rhetoric create a strong visual signal that can easily be misread as numerical dominance. Geography and the visibility trap. Geography amplifies this illusion. Trump's support is strongest in rural and small-town America, where population density is low but political expression is highly visible. Large properties allow for oversized signage, social norms discourage dissent, and political homogeneity reinforces confidence. In contrast, urban areas contain far more people but often display less overt political branding. To an external observer, this creates a distorted map. Vast physical spaces saturated with Trump symbolism, contrasted with dense metropolitan areas that appear visually quieter. The result is a sense that the country supports Trump, even though populating weighted measures tell a different story. Institutions that magnify minorities. The structure of the US political system further separates power from population. The Electoral College rewards state-level victories rather than national vote totals. The Senate grants equal representation to states regardless of size. District boundaries in the House are frequently shaped by partisan gerrymandering. Courts and regulatory agencies are staffed through appointments that can outlast electoral cycles. Together, these mechanisms allow a disciplined minority to exercise disproportionate influence. International audiences experience the consequence of this power. Foreign policy shifts, trade wars, diplomatic crises, without seeing the procedural scaffolding that produced them. What looks like majority is often institutional leverage. Platforms, algorithms, and enforced silence. The illusion of mass support is intensified by contemporary communication systems and by the legal exclusion of millions of people from the electorate. Social media platforms do not function as neural mirrors of public opinion. They reward intensity, repetition and emotional provocation, amplifying the voices of highly motivated minorities while muting quieter or more fragmented opposition. Trumpism is particularly well suited to this environment, with slogans, grievance narratives and culture war framing optimised for circulation. Algorithmic amplification deepens this distortion. Content that provokes outrage or fear is prioritised because it generates engagement, regardless of how representative it is. A politically disciplined bloc can therefore dominate attention far beyond its numerical size. To international audiences, this visibility is easily mistaken for majority consent. The increasing role of AI compounds the problem. Automated accounts, AI-assisted messaging, synthetic images and content farms dramatically increase the volume and persistence of political narratives without increasing the number of people who actually hold those views. Apparent momentum can be generated through repetition rather than participation, blurring the line between popular sentiment and manufactured presence. Alongside amplification sits its exclusion. Millions of people in the United States are legally barred from voting due to felony disenfranchisement laws. Those currently in prison cannot vote, and in many states this exclusion extends beyond release through probation, parole or permanent restrictions. These populations are disproportionately poor and marginalised. Their absence from electoral outcomes is not evidence of apathy or agreement, but of enforced silence. From an anarchist perspective, this combination is revealing. Some voices are magnified far beyond their numbers, while others are removed entirely from the political field. The resulting picture is not democratic expression, but a carefully structured imbalance. Media, conflict and global perception. Media dynamics complete the picture. Trump is an unusually effective generator of conflict, and conflict is the currency of modern media systems. Rallies are visually compelling, outrage is algorithmically rewarded, confrontation is easier to package than complexity. A motivated minority produces constant spectacle will dominate coverage, while diffuse opposition fades into the background. Polling data consistently shows that Trump's approval ratings remain well below majority levels once in office, with extreme partisan polarisation driving the averages. Yet approval ratings are abstract numbers. Images of crowds, chants and confrontation are concrete. The latter travel further, shaping global perception. Conclusion. Minority rule as a feature, not a flaw. From an anarchist perspective, the Trump phenomenon is not an aberration within an otherwise healthy democracy. It is a clear illustration of how representative systems routinely translate minority support into concentrated power. The problem is not simply Trump as an individual, nor even extremism of his base, but a political architecture designed to govern populations without their continuous consent. Representative democracy claims legitimacy through elections, yet elections do not measure collective will so much as they produce authorised rulers. As this case shows, a candidate can be installed with the active support of roughly one-third of the adult population, while the remainder are deprived, disengaged or structurally excluded. This is not a failure of participation alone. It is a system that treats abstention as acquiescence and fragmentation as governability. From an anarchist standpoint, this is a minority rule by design. The concentration of power through the Electoral College, the Senate, gerrymandered districts, and lifetime judicial appointments reveals a deeper truth. Democratic institutions are not neutral conduits of popular will, but manageable. Sorry, the cats are kicking off again. Conduits of popular will, but mechanisms of stabilising authority. They convert social conflict into manageable electoral cycles while insulating decision-making from the most affected by it. When international observers ask how a figure like Trump can wield such influence without majority backing, the answer is that the system is functioning exactly as intended. Anarchist theory has long warned that representation severs decision-making from lived experience. Once power is delegated upward, it acquires its own momentum, interests and self-justifications. The spectacle of Trumpism, rallies, flags, threats and performance outrage, exposes this separation rather than contradicting it. Politics becomes something done to people, not by them, and legitimacy is reduced by procedural victory rather than ongoing consent. The global perception that America supports Trump reflects the same structural illusion. What is visible is not collective agreement, but the actions of those who control the institutions, media narratives and coercive capacities. Large number of Americans may oppose, resent or disengage from these outcomes, yet their refusal or inability to participate does not interrupt the machinery of rule. Silence is counted as consent, and dissent is absorbed without altering the structure itself. For anarchists, this reinforces a central critique. Freedom cannot be secured through periodic voting for rulers. However, competitive the consent. As long as decision-making remains centralised and hierarchical, societies will remain vulnerable to domination by organised minorities with high intensity and strategic access to power. Trump is not proof that democracy has failed. He is proof that representative democracy delivers precisely what it promises: stability for authority, not self-determination for the people.